Hey, welcome back. Today's special Shoe and Show episode is a series we're running called Behind the Design, a masterclass with Wilson W. Smith III, powered by Jones and Vining. This series goes beyond the finished product to explore what really does make great footwear: fit, comfort, and of course, performance, and the creative thinking that brings it all together. And that's exactly where Jones and Vining comes in. You know, for decades, they've partnered with the world's leading footwear brands. I mean, all of them, collaborating from product brief to design to production, ensuring perfect fit, comfort, and performance at the highest level. Across this masterclass, we're going to check in with Wilson about his iconic design career as a designer for both Nike and Jordan, the many different athletes that he's designed for that we all know and love, his strong faith in God, and what the future of design is for our industry. So with that being said, let's dive into the conversation. Hey, Wilson, it is so good to have you back on Shoe and Show, but for this special masterclass edition, we're going to do 4 or maybe even 5 episodes of just me picking your brain as your friend. And I'm so grateful that you're willing to endure the torture of telling me your life story. So thank you for coming back on Shoe and Show.
Hanging out with you is fun. So that's what I would say.
Hey, I'll take it. So on this episode, Wilson, we're going to unpack your life as a designer for our viewers and our listeners, particularly as it relates to the athlete and particularly as it relates to basketball players, right? Because when you think about being a designer and you have an architect background by trade, in fact, our viewers and listeners can go back and watch our episode with you before, which kind of unveils how you got into the industry. But for this conversation, I want to talk through the process of once you find out you're going to be designing for a certain athlete, what is that process? And maybe share some of the stories that you have with some of the iconic basketball players in particular that you've designed for.
Awesome. No, that's fun stuff. And once again, I'm honored to bring these stories because honestly, these athletes are so inspiring. And I feel like I almost could look at each athlete and kind of say, hey, I really learned this. I really gleaned this from this athlete. And it can get pretty specific and pretty inspiring. The one thing I was going to say, thinking about basketball in relation to Nike and the journey, it's like in some ways at the company, I would say that we would say, and I worked for a while in Nike DNA, which is the Department of Nike Archives, which is really around storytelling and really understanding who we are as a brand, so the DNA of the brand. But we would say that running is the heart of the company and basketball is the soul. It's like the soul of the brand. And, you know, so in terms of the soul take, which was really fun when I think about basketball players, you know, my first thought would go to Mr. Jordan, to Michael Jordan. It was indeed a joy to get to be the first dedicated designer in the Jordan brand. And that was kind of an interesting thing. It was like, what happened was, of course, we signed Michael Jordan back in 84. And, you know, the Air Jordans started to come out after that. And the brand actually did not start until 97. So that was when it expanded to a brand. And I remember they talked to me at the time. I had been designing a lot in Nike tennis, working with Agassi and Sampras and a lot of the tennis greats, Mary Pierce and several great tennis players. Anyway, I'd been working with them. And so then they came to me and said, hey, we want to start a brand. We want to start the Jordan brand. And I was like, Jordan brand. And honestly, we had done sub brands before and they did okay, but it wasn't. So I thought, well, okay, maybe I'll come over here and do this for a minute and then whatever. my career will go wherever. I wasn't quite sure where it was going to go, but I thought, yeah, okay, I'll try this out. But anyway, the amazing thing though, is that Michael Jordan is one of those guys that just does not stop. I mean, he's so fascinating and inspired, and he's such a winner. And I think that whole sense of competitive thrive that's in him was just permeated through the brand. And it was exciting that it also had a strong design acumen, because Tinker Hatfield, our creative director, our design, really since design guru, Tinker had done Air Jordans 3 through 15, and they were all amazing. And so when you're starting the brand, we started the brand around the end of the 12 to the 13, which would have been around 97. But when we were starting the brand, then you had this excellence of design and storytelling, and that became kind of. So I think it launched the brand at a premium place, and so just thinking about Mr. Jordan, a lot of times when I think about, like I think I said earlier, when I look at different athletes, I feel like I learn different things from each of them.
Yep.
With Michael, when I think about him, I think about what a great listener. He's someone who really cues in and he pays attention, and I think that's what part of the reason he's successful is that he does really pay attention. I think it's an interesting journey or an interesting approach that he has, because I think he has, he's highly competitive and
So competitive,
he wants to get advantage. He wants to get an advantage over his opponent, so he pays attention. And in fact, I heard him once express, and he expressed this to a group at Nike, so I think it's okay to let this out.
Yeah.
but he expressed that part of his motivation for even being a part of the dream team was that he wanted to kind of get to know his opponents. I mean,
right.
even though he's playing on the same team with those 12 guys or whatever, he's getting to know their habits, so that all he has to do is be a little more dedicated than they are, or get to know kind of their world. So he was, so that was a big motivation for him. So, and that's just something about Mr. Jordan is he's, so to me, I call that listening, because I believe he's really paying attention. That's what I would say.
Yeah. I mean, he just watching The Last Dance, that miniseries that came out, the documentary came out, just showed you behind the scenes how focused he is and the attention to detail and looking for that critical just factor of his opponent's game that he can use to his advantage to defeat them. But even the smallest things of just even playing cards and the playing with the team, or there's multiple scenes with him and the security detail at the United Center in Chicago where they're throwing cards against the wall or coins, and he's wanting to beat it. Like, he just wants to win. And I have to imagine, Wilson, that's infectious. So as you're launching off into, it's 97, you might have to remind me like where in his career was at that moment, but around the championship time period, you're taking this brand. You say typically sub brands maybe not fare as well. I don't think just based on Will and the infectious nature of his competitiveness, that was even an option for Jordan not to succeed.
That's really observant, Matt. And I didn't really know. I certainly thought that Michael was pretty amazing, and I felt the Nike plus MJ was a really great concoction of successful thinking and focus, and I really think it takes a team, and there's a little bit of, in all of Mr. Jordan's success, there's a little bit of chicken and the egg compared to us, because yes, he had it all and he had all the focus, but it was a real blessing for him to be associated with the Nikes and the other brands that he had, that he was, Gatorade, I'm just trying to think of things people, I want to be like Mike, that had messages that came out pretty strong about him. But so I think part of it is, a friend of mine said to me once, he said, brother, his name's Greg Johnson, pastor. He said, you're much more influenced by the people who believe in you than by even the other people you believe in. And when Greg said that, I mean, what's great about that is a lot of people were believing in Michael Jordan. And he is a guy who's applying himself and is totally dedicated and going for it. And so mix that with all the support coming around you, and I believe that yes, you become the greatest. That's kind of part of the equation.
Yeah, that is definitely a part of the equation. So let's kind of step back from MJ in a second and just talk about process. So I have to imagine, like, when you're deciding you're going to design for a basketball player, I would be hyper intimidated, to be honest with you. I'm going to go into this room and something that I'm going to create as a creative and design and develop, and then it's going to be sourced, thousands of miles away and then brought back. Like, that's got to really perform. There's literally millions of dollars at stake when it comes to the performance aspect of what you design. So whether it's MJ or Scotty or somebody else, like, what is that process? What's the first moment that door opens and on the other side is this iconic athlete sitting there waiting to hear from Wilson W. Smith III about your vision about what comes next and how it's going to perform well? That's had to be intimidating, but walk me through that process.
Well, awesome. No, that's really fun. You know, it's interesting. What would I say about that? A couple things. I think that a lot goes on, in preparation for any game as it goes on in preparation for any job. So to bring me to that point of meeting with them, you're standing on all of that, and you're standing on the shoulders of a lot of great people, and you're standing on the blessings of education and all sorts of stuff. So when that happens, you feel like, okay, I'm equipped. I'm called to do this. This is part of what I'm supposed to be. So honestly, a lot of it is, okay, yes, sure. You're kind of like, oh boy, now we get to hang out with this person or that person. But the fun thing is, I think you realize, okay, I'm here. So there's a reason I'm here. I mean, I've obviously been called to be here, and so this is an opportunity for me to bring what I've got. And I think you learn that, over time, about just how much you get to bring yourself to a game. And so there's that. And I think that really when I'm meeting with an athlete, to me, it's such, one of the things that we've said at Nike, we say, be a sponge. That was that used to be one of our maxims. Now we've kind of narrowed it down to about 5 maxims, but we used to have 11. So be a sponge made the cut at 11. No, but the great thing about
memorize them all?
Well, I could try to go there, but
what does that say about your sponge if you didn't memorize all the maxims?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think I memorized the ones that mattered to me. I think everybody could kind of get into the certain ones, but I love be a sponge, because when you're gonna see an athlete, you're really paying attention to what they have to say. Because my role as a designer is to, in a sense, articulate and bring to life, almost be the bridge between the athlete and the customer or consumer. I'm not a big fan of the word consumer, but I would say the person who's going to buy the products, or the person who's going to engage in the stories. And so I want to be kind of that bridge between them, like bringing them together, like somehow representing the athlete and telling the story. So there's a real opportunity in that. So I'm paying it. So I'm trying to be a sponge and see what is it. So it's almost like, it's not like I'm looking at a tree and saying, oh, it's turning fall, so it's turning brown. I mean, yeah, that's true. But what does that mean in relation to how the consumer may be looking at the tree? I don't know. I mean, so there's more to it. I'm looking at a tree out my window right now, but there's more to it than that. I mean, there's more. It's more to it than just kind of what's on face value. You've got to interpret it so that it really makes sense. Because I think and even if an athlete is into a certain thing, okay, what you want to do is, also what's going on at, say, the Nike Sports Research Lab, or what's going on in Nike Innovation, and you want to then bring some of that truth into what's going on with the products.
Well, I will say that as a designer, and I've worked with a number of creative people, blessed to do that even today. And the one thing I see in designers, the really good ones, that they check their ego at the door. Because you're coming with something that's creative, that actually pours out of your own internal creativity.
Right.
you're showing it to somebody else who may be like, not feeling it, or your interpretation is not what I want to present on the court as an iconic athlete. So how many times did you bring something in and it didn't go over well, and how'd you navigate that internally and emotionally? Because that's got to be a challenge. You poured your heart into something, you feel like it's the best way to go, and you walk in and the athlete's like, not feeling it. Hey, pardon the interruption, but I just want to remind you that this special series, Behind the Design, is powered by our friends at Jones & Vining. They're a trusted partner to footwear brands for materials, engineering, and innovation. You can learn more at jonesandvining.com. That is jonesandvining.com.
It's probably like, they've said, Michael said he's probably missed more free throws than anybody, but I bet he doesn't remember them that much. And it's like, I know for myself, this is one guy. I was around a friend the other day and he reminded me of a presentation, honestly, with Andre Agassi, where Andre really was not feeling what I did, and he kind of, he let me know about it. And it's like I had completely forgot about it. I mean, when I think about him, all I can think of are the real positive moments. So I think when things like that happen, I think I kind of just put them out of my head for the most part. I mean, of course I learn from them, but I'm not dwelling. It's like an athlete. Once again, it's a game. You can't just dwell on the negative or whatever. So, and so the interesting thing was when I was explaining earlier about being a sponge, that was to me the first meeting. I think that when you're coming to say bring a presentation to an athlete and you're going to be talking with the team, there is a different strategy to all of that. And
right.
The thing that I want to do more than anything is to try to show the athlete just that I listened to you before, and I want to bring in some of their comments or something or insights that I felt were inspirational. And because there's an interesting thing about inspiration is that it's like inspiration. It's like a spiritual kind of thing that comes in. And so you're here, it's like a breathe that, it is spirit in that has to do with to be breathed into. And so when that happens, when you're listening to an athlete speak or whatever, and one of the things Phil Knight says, he would say is listen to the voice of the athlete. I mean, that's really, and so to me, that's listening to that breathed spirit truth, that's coming in. And so I want to then reflect that. I want to speak that back to the athletes and just say, hey, this is what, when I heard this, it inspired this, or, when you said this is where this is expressed in the design. And so it's really about reflecting what they said and pretty much paying attention to that.
That's really interesting. So I'm feeling some themes here, Wilson. One, as we talked about MJ, and what makes him so successful is his hyper competitive nature, but that he's a listener, so he can get a leg up on the competition. And I assume that's also visually, but hanging out with the dream team, perfect place to gain intel for when the NBA season rolled around after the 92 Olympics to start to utilize. But you're also a listener. Like, you take that skill on, not to get a leg up on your client or your customer or your athlete for whom you're designing, but actually allow them to be successful, allow them to have that leg up. And so it comes down to listening, right? That's what gives you the edge. We're also used to talking. We're also used to having our hot takes and I'm doing it right now, for crying out loud. The point is, when you listen, when you shut up and you listen, you can absorb that. You can bring that in as a sponge, and then you can deploy it to have the best design pair of shoes you could possibly give to that athlete.
Oh, that's awesome, Matt. It reminds me of, it reminds me of the importance. Part of what you need, I think, in listening is also humility. And the reason I put humility out there is I think that's a context and an inspiration to realize from a humility perspective that I don't have it all figured out. I need to listen. If I really want to do a good job on this, I need to pay attention. No, it can't be just about something that I think I've got, or I've got to give. I was honored when they did a shoe that told my story. They asked me for a quote. I gave them the quote, actually a quote that came out of Philippians 2:4, I believe. And
no, my friend, can I correct you in love? Philippians 2:3, as in 23, as in Michael Jordan. So it is tied into everything, my friend.
That is outstanding, and that's a good way to remember the reference. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I hope Purpley won't make that mistake again. But okay, Philippians 2:3. Never thought of that. Great insight. But anyway, it says, in humility, consider others more significant than yourselves. And that's a great way to look at people when you approach people. The notion of humility, because then you can be a sponge. Then you can really pay attention to what they're bringing, whoever you're talking to, in whatever setting. Mr. from Michael Jordan on down, or whatever. You have an opportunity to really to listen. I feel one of the great fun things that I've got to do later in my career, second half of my career, was I've been teaching a design studio at University of Oregon, and it's an adaptive design enabling athletes with disabilities. And so what we do is we get to connect students with athletes, and they bring, they talk about their sport of choice and their athletes who have had a disability that's happened in their life. And so now they need apparatus or something to help them perform the best in their sport. And generally that apparatus doesn't exist in the marketplace. And so the students get to design this special, unique thing for the athlete. Well, the process, what's great is that process is no different than meeting with Serena or with whoever that I've had an opportunity to meet with. It's still in humility, listening to them, as Mr. Phil Knight says, listen to the voice of the athlete. And the other one that ties to that adaptive design piece is Bill Bowerman, the other co-founder of Nike. He says, if you have a body, you're an athlete. So if you have a body, you're an athlete. So that's everybody, all of us, you're an athlete. And that's a great way to think about it. We want to enable athletes to perform at their peak, in all that we're doing. So anyway, so that's an inclusive thought about everyone. And it is also maybe a depth thought in terms of listening to the voice to kind of gain insights from athletes.
Yeah. So the last thing, as we kind of close up this first conversation around designing for icons like Michael Jordan, particularly for the court, I've heard two things from you, Wilson. One is you belong in the room. I kind of put myself in your shoes, pardon the pun, but I'm standing outside of the suite where I'm about to go in and pitch Michael. And I would be hyper nervous about it, to be honest with you, because, he's the greatest of all time. Right. But you felt, because of your purpose, and we'll get to purpose in a different conversation, but because of your purpose, you felt very comfortable being there because you knew you were supposed to be there. Well, at the same time, that confidence that you brought into that room in that moment was met with a balance of humility so that you could listen and engage and understand what Michael's needs were or Scotty's needs are, or go on down the list of all the basketball players you've worked with. And so that's really a balance. That's a hard balance at times. Sometimes they get out of whack. You feel imposter syndrome. You don't belong, or, hey, I own this place. And so you're not humble. And so it's a fine balance to be in this space, but you seem over a 41-year career to navigate it like a master classman would do. And so congratulations.
Well, hey, Matt, can I give a quick shout out? I think that as much as you want to project all of those awesome traits you're kind of expressing, I think it helps that Michael Jordan is a person who understands the value of team. And he would be a guy who really is pulling for you as much as you're pulling. He's really, he would be a person who really is like leans in and he's a listener, and he's wanting, he's really wanting the success, and as long as as long as I'm putting forth my effort, he's going to be right there to receive it and to encourage and to, and to have fun with it. And, he would joke with me some, like, I remember one time one of the first meetings I had with him was like, I was sitting in the room and then he comes in the room and everybody, when Michael comes in, it's like, oh, wow, this is about the second meeting. We're like, okay. So we're sitting there and Michael sits down and he goes, so can you show me something good today, Wilson? Something like that. And it just calls me out in a room with like 20 people. I'm going, oh, yeah, Mr. Jordan. I'll get it. And then he goes, man, he doesn't know what the blank what he's saying right now. So he's like a really engaging, hilarious person. And he would love to he great.
Needle you.
Yeah, right. And he knows how to kind of play to it. But I think that it helps that he was right there as well.
Did you last question? I have like a ton of questions. I'm glad we're doing a lot of these conversations, but did you do a lot of prep work? Like if a young designer is watching this and is aspiring to be someday in the shoes that you filled, how much prep work goes into a meeting with Michael Jordan before that moment? Are you rehearsing? Are you playing? Are you role playing? Are you in DC? We call it a murder board. If you have a hearing, you go and you like replicate the hearing, right? Right. What do you do to prep for a meeting like that?
That's a really great question, Matt. A lot of what design is attaching to is passion. And sometimes passion is something that can't be programmed as much. I mean, you need to allow for passion to kind of show itself and to kind of bring forth in the moment a little bit. Of course, there's prep and creation, and maybe there's bullet points, but you have to kind of lean into your heart and kind of what is kind of the leading response at this moment. And so I think there is prep. I would prep everything. I think about clothing. I mean, I tell you, one of the funnest, I don't know if you got a minute here, but one of the craziest situations. This was the first presentation that I got to give to Mr. Jordan, and this was like 2 days. Well, not 2 days. I'd say it was within about a little over a week of when he made the last shot at the Bulls, and so he makes this shot. And so
Utah game, the finals against Utah.
Finals against Utah. He makes the shot. And so here we are meeting on a Saturday morning about 8:30 on the Nike campus. And so that was about the only time that he could meet. I don't know if it was before tea time or what, but he could meet at 8:30 on a Saturday morning. And so we had a room full of people, and I knew what I was presenting to him was this this cross training shoe, this new trunner that I had designed, and I was actually doing it in this really bright green color that I really thought was a story. And so I had just been in New York, and I'd been at a place called Shanghai Tang, which is a really great store. And I bought this outfit that was a, pretty much a really nice Chinese suit, really. I mean, if that's what you would call it. I mean, basically in terms of being silk, and and it had a green lining, and it actually had green slippers that went with the green lining, and so it was just this silk suit. And so I bought this, and so when Mr. Jordan arrives at 8:30, so we're in the room, so he's walking in, shaking hands with everybody, and then when he sees me, he goes, "Oh, I'm got fun with this," And so then anyway, so I'm sitting there, so we go through Tinker and everybody else's presentation. So I'm one of the last ones. He says, "Oh, hold on." Now, what's a brother doing wearing a Chinese suit? What are you doing wearing? And so I was going, man. I said, man, I'm in my pajamas. You got me up early this morning. I was just trying to come back with something. But and then as I start telling this, everybody's laughing. So I start telling the story and presenting. And then when I show the image of the product, he says, "Oh," and he's like, "Okay, I get it. I see."
Mm-hmm.
Tie-in. Yeah, I get the tie-in. And so it's kind of one of those things where, I was thinking about that presentation a long time before that. I, bought an outfit. I really think about clothing as part of because you're presenting the whole thing. And especially, you only have one shot with Mr. Jordan. I mean, one more thing I want to say about that meeting. There was a lot of great things in that meeting. But, here he is going through an hour plus of like responding to all the stuff that he's seeing. He's just giving great insights. And so we were kind of done with the meeting, and I'd stand over by the donuts and the coffee or something, and I was like, and Michael was over there, and I said, man, how now you just made that shot. And I said, if I had just made that shot, I would be on the furthest island off of Hawaii. What are you? Here we are, 8 days later, and you're in this meeting at 8:30 a.m. on the West Coast. What? How are you so driven? And I remember he was just kind of going, I don't know, man. I'm just driven. I just want to, I just want the best. It was a cool answer. I don't know if I can express it, but I felt
it's almost like an aw shucks moment.
Yeah, it was an aw shucks moment. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And he was just, and it was just great to kind of see that side of him. But at that point I realized, man, the excellence that you project gets permeated into the people around you. And that's something that the Jordan brand has been.
I love that, Wilson. Thank you. Your excellence is permeated around the people around you for sure. We appreciate you coming on. This is our first session. We got several more after this. Oh. I really appreciate you hanging out and talking to me about designing shoes for the iconic, the GOAT, Michael Jordan. Wilson, thank you so much. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us on the special Shoe and Show episode of Behind the Design, a masterclass with Wilson W. Smith III, all powered by Jones & Vining. Throughout the series, we're pulling back the curtain of what it really takes to create great footwear, from creative storytelling to fundamentals of fit, comfort, and performance. And Jones & Vining plays a vital role in that journey. They work behind the scenes to help tons of different brands deliver footwear that looks great, feels right, and performs where it matters most. To learn more about Jones & Vining and how they support footwear innovation from concept to consumer, visit jonesandvining.com. That's jonesandvining.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.